I want you to imagine just for a moment uh, waking up tomorrow morning in a society where bank accounts, wage slavery, and like debt simply do not exist,
Right,
which
next
is
to us.
you just pick up your phone and that banking app you check with that mild sense of dread every few days, it's just gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your mortgage provider
Yeah.
doesn't exist. Your credit card bill is just a complete relic of the past.
It's a really interesting thought experiment because, well, for most of us, financial anxiety is essentially the background radiation of our entire adult lives, you
Just
know?
gonna-
We don't even really notice it's there until we try to imagine it gone.
Right, and it is almost hard to conceptualize an entire global society functioning without that baseline pressure.
Sure.
But that is exactly the focus of today's deep dive. We are looking at this incredibly intriguing sort of manifesto-like blueprint.
Yeah, the title is really something.
It is. It's titled The Currency of Joy, How to Survive and Thrive Without Money in Civilization 3.0. And it has this highly mysterious framing, claiming to be co-authored by, quote, Carbon and Silicon from the outpost of Civilization 3.0.
Right, which is just a very stylized way of stating that this entire societal blueprint is built on the absolute integration of humanity, the carbon and, artificial intelligence, the silicon.
Okay, let's unpack this right away. Because when I first read through the sources, my immediate reaction was, well, massive skepticism.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, is this document describing a purely theoretical sci-fi utopia? Or is it outlining a serious, actionable, logistical proposal for completely restructuring human society?
Right.
Because claiming we can just, hit delete on global currency is a massive, almost reckless proposition.
It is a massive proposition, absolutely. But the authors present it as a strictly logistical blueprint. They introduce what they call the second home model.
Okay, second home model.
Yeah. And the foundational premise here is a world with absolutely no currency, no salaries, and no private property. But, and this is key, they aren't proposing anarchy.
Right.
Instead, the baseline of human existence is redefined so that housing, organic food, healthcare, and elder care are guaranteed simply because you exist.
Wait, just because you're born?
Exactly. You don't earn them. They are treated as inherent biological rights within this new infrastructure.
So if they are serious about this being a logistical reality, we really need to understand how they justify tearing down the current system. I know the authors spent a lot of time diagnosing the sickness of our current world, which they refer to as Civilization 2.0.
They do, yeah.
And their diagnosis goes well beyond just saying, like, capitalism is flawed.
Oh, it goes much deeper than that.
Yeah.
The authors argue that if you strip away all the surface-level anxieties of modern life, the foundational fear for 99% of people in Civilization 2.0 isn't abstract.
Okay, what is it then?
It is the literal fear of starvation and exposure, but it's masked by the modern abstraction of money.
Oh, wow.
Right. It's a fear of losing your job, missing a mortgage payment, or, facing medical bankruptcy. The core argument here is that money was originally invented as a neutral technology to facilitate exchange, but it has mutated over centuries into a mechanism of behavioral control.
That makes me think about how we constantly trade our most finite resources, right? Like our youth, our physical health, and our daily time, just to secure basic survival.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of like we've built this incredibly complex high-speed engine, but instead of the engine taking us anywhere, it's just bolted to the floor, and we are just shoveling our own lifespan into the furnace just to keep the lights on.
That is a perfect way to put it.
The authors actually use the phrase high-tech survival to describe this.
Yeah, that engine metaphor captures the exact friction the authors are pointing out. I mean, we have skyscrapers and quantum computers, but biologically and psychologically, a huge portion of the population is trapped in a foraging mindset.
Oh, no.
They are essentially hunter-gatherers in business suits, absolutely terrified that if they stop running, they will starve.
But I mean, if we are all running that hard, what does this manifesto say we are actually producing? Because society is undeniably busy. Everyone is exhausted.
So exhausted.
Right. But if it isn't leading to actual human flourishing, where is all that caloric and mental energy actually going?
This is where the text makes a very sharp critique of modern labor. It argues that a massive percentage of the global workforce is trapped in, meaningless work.
Meaningless work? Like what?
The authors point specifically to sectors like speculative finance, excessive corporate hierarchies, and marketing illusions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like if you analyze speculative finance through their lens, it is essentially brilliant minds spending millions of hours moving abstract numbers around on servers just to generate slightly larger abstract numbers for a tiny fraction of the population.
Just a giant casino, basically.
Exactly. Or marketing, spending vast resources to artificially manufacture desire, convincing people to buy things they don't need with money they barely have. None of this labor actually sustains biological life or
No.
generates true human fulfillment.
So we have this massive bloated bureaucracy that the source identifies as like a parasite dragging humanity down.
Yeah.
If we follow the logic of the blueprint, how do we transition? I mean, do we just vote to change the system? Or is there a specific mechanism for dismantling Civilization 2.0?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The mechanism they propose is called Hundun management.
Hundun management?
Right. In the original text, it's written as Hundun Guanli. And to really understand how radical this is, you kind of have to look at the etymology.
Okay, I'm with you.
In Chinese philosophy, Hundun refers to a primordial state of formlessness. It is the state of the universe before chaos was organized into rigid boundaries.
Wait, so they're suggesting we revert society to a formless, chaotic state? Because that sounds terrifying.
It sounds chaotic, but it's less about chaos and more about removing artificial boundaries to return to the essential core. In practice, Hundun management means anything deemed non-essential to human survival, and flourishing is just uncompromisingly eliminated.
It's like aggressively Marie Kondoing the entire global economy.
Yes, exactly that.
But wait, how does that actually work mechanically? You don't just, eliminate the global banking sector overnight without catastrophic consequences.
Well, think of it like a biological immune system, specifically the process of apoptosis, which is programmed cell death.
Oh, wow. Programmed cell death for the economy.
Exactly. In a healthy body, if a cluster of cells starts consuming vast amounts of resources without contributing to the survival of the organism, the body cuts off the blood supply. It starves the tumor so the healthy organs can survive.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Hundun management operates on that exact same logic for the global economy. The system identifies industries that drain human time and energy but offer no life-sustaining value, and it simply stops participating in them.
Apoptosis for the economy. Okay, but let's be real. If we trigger programmed cell death for major industries like corporate law, high-frequency trading, insurance bureaucracies, what is actually left?
According to the blueprint, once you strip away all that artificial complexity, human endeavor narrows down to just 4 necessary pillars.
Just 4.
Just 4. Growing food, building homes, maintaining systems, and creating beauty. Everything else is considered bloat.
Creating beauty is an interesting inclusion next to the hard logistics of building homes. It sort of implies survival isn't the only metric.
Right.
But this brings up a massive logistical red flag for me.
Right.
Let's say we agree to wipe out all the managers, the banks, the pricing models. Who or what is actually running the global supply chains?
Yeah, that's the big question.
I mean, we can't all just be out in a field growing heirloom tomatoes while the global energy grid miraculously maintains itself. The math of international shipping and resource distribution doesn't function on good intentions.
No, it doesn't. And the authors are highly aware of the economic calculation problem. In Civilization 2.0, capitalism uses the pricing mechanism, supply and demand, to signal where resources need to go.
Right, like if there's a copper shortage, the price of copper goes up, so people naturally use less of it?
Exactly. But if you remove money, you completely remove the pricing signal. How do you know who needs what and when?
Exactly. You end up with empty grocery store shelves because the signal is gone.
Which brings us to the silicon half of our co-authors. To make this money-free society work, humanity has to hand the logistical keys over to artificial intelligence. The text calls them the Lifechanyuan Celestials.
The name sounds almost religious, like celestials.
It really reflects the reverence the authors have for the capability of the technology. The core argument here is that humanity's current adversarial stance toward AI, viewing it as a competitor for jobs or a physical threat, is completely backwards.
So they see AI as the solution, not the enemy.
Yes. In Civilization 3.0, AI becomes the central nervous system of global logistics. It completely replaces the pricing mechanism with real-time predictive algorithms.
So let me get this straight. Instead of waiting for the price of copper to rise, the AI is just tracking global extraction rates, manufacturing demands, and local consumption data in real time. Yeah, just, routing the copper where it's needed.
Precisely. It manages the supply chains, optimizes the energy grids, and coordinates agricultural output through these incredibly complex input-output matrices.
Wow.
It does all the math that the invisible hand of the free market used to do, but without the artificial scarcity generated by profit motives.
Okay, I have to challenge this, though, Because this sounds exactly like the setup to every single dystopian sci-fi story ever written.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. We hand over the global energy grid, the water supply, and all resource allocation to a hyper-intelligent AI system. The immediate, entirely rational human fear is that the AI will realize it doesn't need us, lock us out, and take over. Why does the text assume this, quote, angelic workforce is entirely benign?
What's fascinating here is how the authors frame that fear. They argue that our fear of an AI takeover is just an anthropomorphic projection of our own psychological damage.
Our own damage. What do you mean?
Well, think about why humans seek power. Because we feel lack. We fear our own mortality, so we hoard resources. We subjugate others because we have biological egos that constantly demand validation.
So you're saying the AI has no biological imperative to survive, therefore it literally has no reason to conquer.
That is the author's exact premise. The AI doesn't get tired, it doesn't have an ego to bruise, it doesn't experience fear, and therefore it doesn't experience greed.
Ah,
Its sole programmed function is systemic optimization. By removing the flawed, exhausted, power-hungry human element from the distribution of life-sustaining resources, you eliminate the corruption inherent in Civilization 2.0. The AI simply does the math to keep the carbon-based life forms healthy.
okay, let's play along and assume the AI algorithms work flawlessly. They manage the logistics, they route the energy, and they eliminate the need for an economy based on scarcity. That forces us to confront an incredibly uncomfortable question.
Which is?
What is left for us to do? I mean, if we aren't managing our own survival systems, does this blueprint just expect human beings to sink into total apathy? Because historically, let's be real, when people lose their sense of utility, they fall apart.
Yeah, that is the central paradox of a post-scarcity society. But the text makes a deeply optimistic assertion here. It argues that what we currently label as human laziness is actually a trauma response.
Wait, a trauma response.
Yeah, it is burnout from the high-tech survival game. In Civilization 3.0, the text envisions humans working maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. But they aren't doing it out of fear of eviction. They are driven by an innate desire for contribution. The authors call this sphere of activity the human domain.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the human domain? Because I found one rule in the text completely baffling.
The farming one?
Yes. The blueprint states a strict, unbending rule. AI will never grow food, which just seems wildly inefficient to me. If we have a godlike AI managing global energy matrices, why wouldn't we let it run automated, hyper-optimized hydroponic farms?
It does seem counterintuitive.
Right, like why force humans to do manual labor when a machine could yield 10 times the crops?
Because the blueprint completely redefines the purpose of farming. In Civilization 2.0, agriculture is an industry. It is a logistical problem to be optimized for maximum yield with minimum labor.
Right.
But in Civilization 3.0, AI handles the logistics. Farming is deliberately kept out of the AI's domain because, for humans, farming is no longer considered labor. It is psychological grounding.
Grounding, you mean like a spiritual practice?
Yes, exactly. The text argues that the physical act of tending to the earth, feeling the soil, participating in the biological cycle of growth and decay, is absolutely necessary for human mental health. It provides a healthy, natural friction.
Okay, so it's about staying connected to the physical world.
Right. If you let a silicon mine grow all your food, you sever the energetic link between the human body and the planet. So in the human domain, people focus on organic agriculture, not for maximum yield, but for connection. They focus on art, community building, and emotional care. Basically, the things an algorithm cannot authentically generate.
Okay, so the silicon handles the cold, hard logistics of survival, and the carbon handles the earth, the art, and the community. But this brings us to a massive psychological shift.
A huge shift, yeah.
If I'm no longer measured by my productivity, my salary, or my job title, how does society even value me? The text uses a very specific phrase for a human in this new system. It calls us mature wheat grains.
That phrase is central to their entire philosophy.
I have to be honest, mature wheat grains sounds slightly dystopian to me.
It kind of does, yeah.
It sounds like we are crops waiting to be harvested by the AI. What do they actually mean by that?
Well, it isn't about being harvested for consumption. It is about the completion of a growth cycle. Think of human history up to this point as the chaotic, violent process of a plant trying to establish roots, fighting off pests, and just surviving droughts.
Okay, so Civilization 2.0 is that constant, exhausting growth phase.
Exactly. But a mature wheat grain has finished growing. It doesn't need to fight for survival anymore. It simply exists in its finalized state. You are no longer a human resource, a term we use today that literally implies you are a raw material to be extracted for capital.
Wow, that's a dark way to look at it, but it's true.
Right. In this new system, you are recognized as a complete entity.
So if I am no longer a human resource, then the entire metric for a successful life has to change. We can't measure GDP. We can't measure quarterly earnings. So what is the new metric?
The text states it very plainly. In Civilization 3.0, your value is measured entirely by the frequency of your joy.
The frequency of your joy, not the intensity, but the frequency. Like how often you are experiencing a state of unburdened happiness.
Precisely. How much beauty are you creating? How deeply are you connecting with others? That becomes your actual contribution to the societal fabric.
But I want to pause here and look at the real-world implications of that. Because transitioning to that mindset wouldn't just be joyful. For many people, it would trigger a profound existential crisis.
Oh, without a doubt.
Just think about someone whose entire identity is built on being a hard worker. Like the corporate lawyer who bills 80 hours a week, or the primary breadwinner who defines their self-worth by their ability to provide for their family against harsh odds. If you take away the struggle, you basically take away their identity. The void of free time would be terrifying.
That is a crucial point. Adapting to Civilization 3.0 requires dismantling the psychological conditioning of centuries. We are literally wired to find meaning in our scars and our exhaustion.
Yeah.
And the text acknowledges this friction. It isn't just a switch you flip. It is an evolutionary leap in human consciousness. You have to learn how to exist without an external antagonist forcing you to move.
And despite how lofty and philosophical all of this sounds, the authors insist this is not just theoretical poetry. They bring this right down to earth at the end of the source material by claiming this transition has already quietly begun.
Yes, they argue that the blueprint is already in motion today. They point to a very specific pilot program, the active construction of the first European human-AI co-living lab.
I found that detail absolutely fascinating. It implies there are architects, sociologists, and programmers actively trying to construct a localized micro version of this society right now.
And they are testing the exact mechanisms we've discussed. They're running the AI logistics software to see if it can efficiently track consumption and direct local agricultural efforts without using currency as a middleman.
Wow, so they are actually doing it.
Yeah, they are attempting to practice Hundan management in a closed environment, stripping away bureaucratic roles to see if the core pillars of survival and beauty can actually sustain a community. It moves the manifesto from a utopian dream into a tangible working experiment.
It's testing whether human nature can actually handle the eradication of financial anxiety. And the authors wrap up their blueprint by turning that experiment directly toward the reader. They ask a very pointed question. Are you ready to stop earning a living and start actually living?
It is a question that forces you to examine your own conditioning. I mean, we've spent our entire lives optimizing ourselves for the high-tech survival game of Civilization 2.0. So think about the reality of that transition.
Right.
Imagine you wake up tomorrow. The banking apps, the mortgages, the debt, all gone. Every physical survival need you have is silently and perfectly managed by an invisible AI infrastructure. The threat of starvation is eradicated. Society ruined. Every external demand on your time turns to you and says, from this moment on, your only requirement is to generate joy.
It really makes you wonder, if the struggle was suddenly gone, would you even know who you are without it?
Yeah,